know we have talked a few times on this channel about headless guitars versus non-headless guitars or normal guitars. With that, I wanted to kind of talk to you guys here today on what might be beneficial for you, what I think the pros are of headless guitars, what I think the cons are of headless guitars, versus what I think the pros are of regular guitars or guitars with the headstock versus guitars without a headstock. Let's get into it today, guys. So first things first, what I'm going to start out with here today is guitars without a headstock. What I think some of the pros are is that the body is a lot lighter. This is my Ibanez QX. I do have my Kiesel Zeus back there. I love both of these guitars. I do really like headless guitars. Some would say I'm on like a headless guitar kick. But with this, I do have to say practicing on this thing is a breeze. It's super lightweight. It's really good build quality. It's an Ibanez, so it's got that fast, thin neck. On these ones, I like the QXs better than the regular Qs. The neck is thinner, and it's a parallel wizard neck, so it's 19 at the first fret and 19 at the 20. So it never gets any bigger or smaller. The Zeus back there, I do have Kiesel's thinner neck profile, so I'm just a fan of that. But with being headless, I will say that it is easy to just put the strings in, tune it up, and forget about it. Your tuners are down there. So with this, I will say when you sit in certain positions, it might be a little bit more awkward or not awkward. If you're using a strap, it is definitely lighter for you as well, less like back pain or anything like that. If you do have a pre-existing condition with back pain, I will say that they are super beneficial if you're trying to do long practice sessions, because I did say it was a little bit easier to practice. With that, long practice sessions are where these things shine. Long playing sessions. You don't have something that's super over cumbersome. I do notice an easier time like on your shoulder and things like that. Less weight to kind of carry around and things. I will say that they are very like quote unquote like ergonomic. I sit in the classical position, so with this part does fit right in my thigh, so that's good for when I'm playing, just having those long days. I do feel like it's a bit effortless to play. Some of the pros, that was a good representation of the pros there. Some of the cons, like I did say, this kind of has to sit there, so the output jack here I have to have in the classical position, because if you try and side saddle it, it does get kind of annoying. Or if you have it, I know like Andre Flood, for instance, likes to have it in this position. You're not getting it. You have the jack there, and it's not sitting in that type of position on your right leg, in that position with like a pillow or anything else like that. It's just not going to be where you want it to be if you're trying to sit like that. Some of the other cons with it too is that it's one of those things that you're very much limited by the bridge. I will say overall it is by the bridge. You got to make sure you have the correct string gauge for what you want, for what your tuning is. If you're trying to tune super light on a headless guitar, you might not have the tuning ability with the back end there. Or if you're trying to detune or anything like that. I will say on this one, intonation is pretty easy, all things considered, because you do have the tuners, and then you do have the intonation screws, and then you can change the string height right there. Ibanez did a really good job on that. Kiesel does a really good job on that. Those are the only two headless guitars I've had for right now. So more to come in the future, but I will say that those are pretty beneficial for you. They kind of keep it similar to the rest of the guitars. With that being said, some of the other cons is that I know people like the weight. I know people are really sticklers for sustain. I will say that sometimes I do find out that the sustain's not like as much as I would get with like a regular headstock guitar. I will say that is probably because this guitar is so lightweight. This has to be one of the lightest guitars I have next to that Kiesel. Just from like the lack of wood and everything else like that. So that is probably like my pros and cons for a headless guitar. I love this guitar. I play it every single day. So, and then the next thing we talk about here is our headstocks guitar, our normal guitar. Obviously, both of these are fan fret. The headless Ibanez is slightly fanned, where they like to call it slanted fret because it goes from 25 on the high end to 25, I believe, 25 and a half on the low end. With this is 25 and a half on the high end to 27 for that low string. There's not going to be any playing in here. The benefits of this is your tuners are up here, your bridge adjustment is down here, you know, all the normal type of stuff. With this, I still sit in the classical position, so it's still very comfortable to me. With that, you know, if you've had a normal guitar in the past, it's not any different from, honestly, I would say most headless guitars. I would just say, just like some of the added cons is that, like, you know, the weight, depending on certain guitars, body, wood, and stuff like that, it is going to be heavier. This is a mahogany body guitar. It is heavier. I've been playing this one a little bit more recently. One of the other things I do like about it is that, and obviously this is guitar to guitar, but let me try and see if it'll focus for us. There we go. The locking tuners there. You know, just making sure that the guitar stays in tune, holds the tension well. I do like with this headstock, you do get more pull on that low string just because of how far out the tuner is. You know, so just things like that. I would say that like headstock guitars aren't very different from non-headstock guitars or normal guitars. But with that, there are a lot of biases that come with it where a lot of people would say, well, why are you playing like a toy or something like that? I do find that, you know, both guitars, I will say, have their time and place. If you do like to travel and stuff, the headless guitar might be a benefit for you. Where is that this might be hard to fit in the luggage or might be hard to put in your car or anything like that to be able to bring. Like, it's a hassle taking in and out of things. Where like the headstock or the headless guitar, excuse me, you basically just pull it out of the bag and just start playing. Like, you don't need to do anything else besides just pull it out of the bag. With this, if you do bring it, you might want to put it in a case. You might worry about like the headstock banging around in a case. You might want to wrap around something like that just to keep it a little more snug. You might also want to make sure that everything stays in tune. Just like they both have truss rods, they both have pickups, and all of that. But at the same point in time, it just comes down to personal preference. I would say that like if you want a normal guitar, headstock and all, it is going to weigh more. I don't know the exact weights on this guitar, but this guitar is a lot heavier than the other guitar. Obviously, lack of wood up here for the other guitar. And then there is the cutout at the bottom. With this, you're getting a full, and this is a neck through guitar too, so I will say it is even heavier, but it comes down to personal preference. I would say the benefits of a standard guitar is that, you know, your left hand does the tuning instead of the right hand. I will say that is a little less annoying because you're not having to like reach over and pick with your right or your left hand while you're going and tuning with your right hand. That is beneficial because then this you can kind of just pluck here and then tune up there. So there are different little things here and there that do benefit headless or non-headless. It's just kind of figuring out what's right for you. Right now I've been preferring headless guitars, even though I have been playing this more. I have been just liking the feel of the neck. There's something with it that just makes it feel good for me. But that doesn't mean my other guitars aren't awesome as well. There are huge benefits to, like I said, to having a headless guitar, but then there is also the same benefits to having a normal guitar with a headstock. Like I said, the tuners are up here, so it's easier. You can kind of focus on the intonation down here and the string height down here. You don't have to worry about everything all in one mechanic. And then you got to tune up back here, and then you got to reach up here, and then you're good. Whereas that with a headless guitar, you'd have to change the string height, everything is all from the bridge. So it's definitely a little bit of a learning curve, and you have to make sure you have the right tools. There are other brands. I believe Strandberg has their own tool for everything. GOC has their own tool for everything. So you do have to be careful with headless guitars. Some of them have their own tool for everything, and other ones use standard like hip shot type stuff, like where it's all Allen wrenches. This hip shot bridge, hip shot tuners, everything is Allen wrenches. Even the truss rod adjustment is Allen wrenches. I use a ball end Allen wrench for that. But with standard guitars, you can kind of use the same thing across the board, where depending on what headless guitar you have, they're all different tools, and you have to make sure you have the certain tools, or you have to make sure that you can order the certain tools. If a tuner breaks on a normal guitar, you can just buy a new tuner and pop it in. If a saddle wears out on the bridge here, you can buy a new one and pop it in. I know Hipshot sells them separately and everything like that. But on the headless guitars, you most of the time, I know on my Kiesel, you can buy the separate things. The tuner's not going to wear out because it's just back and forth. But if the saddle wears out, you'd have to contact either Kiesel, because I know that they get those made differently, or you might have to contact Hipshot and hope that they send one to you. With the Ibanez ones, I don't know. I haven't found a place that you can buy them yet. If you know a place that you can buy the saddles, let me know, because I'd love to make sure that I, have one or two of them on hand just in case anything happens. Always good to have backup of things, because you never know what's going to happen. So I would say that that's something to watch out for. You never know what's going to happen with the hardware, or being able to kind of maneuver around certain situations. Whereas that with a standard guitar, they've been making them for so long with a headstock, and to be fair, they've been making headlesses with for a while too. But with these, parts are pretty standard. I know this is a multi-scale, but with that, parts are pretty standard. Pickups, you can go ahead and contact a company for multi-scale pickups. The Ibanez one will just take standard pickups because the pickups aren't slanted, but that's not here nor there. The parts more readily available. So that's something to look out for, the difference between headless and non-headless. If you're looking to buy a headless guitar, let me know in the comments below. We'll have some discussions on kind of what brands you're thinking of. But also, because it is the holiday season, if you're looking to buy a regular guitar too, let me know what brand you're thinking about buying in the comments below. Let me know what guitar you're thinking about buying. There's tons of great deals going on, and we'll talk about that in the comments, guys. It's Raijin here, dude, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of the week. Have a great holiday, and let me know what guitar purchases you're making in those comments below, okay?